Hello and welcome to the Mat to Mastery podcast. Today, I have a very special guest all the way from Newcastle. It's Professor Gustavo, who's also known as Professor Guga. Professor, welcome to the Mat to Mastery podcast.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you taking your busy time out of your schedule to be here and share your words of wisdom. And I can't wait to hear all your words of wisdom. Now, I had a quick look on the website. I'm reading through your bio. You have a pretty impressive bio here. Now, you started the gentle art in jiu-jitsu in 1992, and you have won many titles under so many weight divisions, from state to regional to national to international levels. And you've also completed a university degree in law back in 2001. So this is such an impressive overview already. Not to mention also you arrived in Australia with your family back in 2003 to pursue your dream, to compete and spread the teaching of this amazing sport that we get to share called the gentle art, jiu-jitsu. Furthermore, you've remained undefeated in your weight division for 7 years since arriving in Australia back in 2003, winning 2 Pan Pacifics, flying to Dubai as well. Abu Dhabi for the World Professional Jiu-Jitsu Cup in 2009 as well as 2013. You've had sponsors by the Sheikh. Oh my, you'll have to give us some stories about that and what that was like. You've participated twice in the World Championships in 2003, 2006 as a black belt. You during your busy time, you've also completed a fitness course as well in personal training. So you've been extremely busy, Professor Guga. Tell me, back into 1992, when you started this amazing sport, what actually inspired you? What got you started in this amazing sport?
Well, as you speaking about my resume there, doesn't seem like I did a lot. And to be honest, I never thought trying to achieve many things. I was just trying to work towards what I wanted. And, achieving things is just a consequence of hard work that you put in. I started in 1992 when I used to train capoeira for many years. And I didn't have jiu-jitsu in my city where I used to live in Brazil. I live in São José dos Campos, and we didn't have jiu-jitsu there. We didn't have any clubs or any teachers teaching jiu-jitsu at the time, only capoeira. And I did capoeira for many years because of my brother. My brother used to do capoeira as well. And one day, this master of jiu-jitsu, he became my master, Master Sérgio Lisboa. He came in to do a self-defense seminar in a capoeira studio. So he came in to do just demonstration of self-defense, like bear hugs or headlock escapes, guillotine chokes, triangles, and arm locks. And I was fascinated by the efficacy of jiu-jitsu and how simple, those techniques were to beat even bigger opponents. And I got addicted straight away in the first time. And since then, my master moved to the city. So he moved from Rio de Janeiro to São José dos Campos, where I was living. And I was probably one of the first students to enroll because I knew jiu-jitsu already through my cousins, because my family's from Rio de Janeiro, and I used to hear a lot about jiu-jitsu back then. My cousin used to come to my house in Brazil, and he used to teach me some stuff on the ground. They all black belts in judo as well. And that's how I started my journey.
Yeah, beautiful. What was it exactly that sort of it got you into it? Was it the impressive arm bars, the chokes? What was it that actually because capoeira is also an amazing, effluent, effortless form of martial arts. And I just wondered, because what was it exactly that sort of got you sort of addicted and hooked?
Yeah, so I trained judo when I was 8 years old. I did some judo, so I knew a little bit of newaza, a little bit of groundwork, and a bit of takedowns. And as I said, I used to go to Rio all the time. Even I was living about 4 hours away from Rio. my whole family was from Rio. So I used to visit Rio all the time, and I used to hear jiu-jitsu. I wanted to know about jiu-jitsu more. And I never had a chance to train jiu-jitsu because we didn't have jiu-jitsu in our city. And when my master moved to the city, and after he's presented that seminar, I really enjoyed it. It was something that got my attention, and not just the techniques itself, but everything that's involved, like the discipline and the art of jiu-jitsu. I was fascinated by, and I wanted to learn more.
Mm, mm. And as you know, there are so many principles to jiu-jitsu. Yeah, multiple principles. What principle has been a standout for you that you kind of sort of live by? There might be more than one.
Yeah, I think definitely more than one. You can't pick one. But I think jiu-jitsu itself, when I learned jiu-jitsu, I learned from a very strict master. He was a policeman chief. He was black belt 3rd degree back then. And he came from a really hard school. So he taught me like all the old fashioned, how can I say, etiquette that people don't have these days anymore. You know, respecting, listening, obeying rules, things like that shapes people's characters these days. You know, and we're lacking nowadays. And one of the things that marked me the most was not just even the technique itself or the physical aspect of it, was more like the mental aspect. Back in Brazil, because we're so far away from the the, the Japan, he started teaching me meditation. He started teaching me about Zen Buddhism. He gave me some books to read, all about these things that was interesting me as well, because I used to like that part of it. And since then, I do meditation, and I try to live by the Buddhist way of living, like karma, doing things right, doing things good for the environment and for people, treating people kindly. And that what, I think I got the most of it, since I was a little kid.
Mm. Is it the jiu-jitsu that's helped the meditation, or does the meditation help with the jiu-jitsu?
I think they go hand to hand. It's like, do you know that big saying, "Corpore san, mind san," like how you call body mind sane. You have to be sane in your body and sane in your mind. If your body's really doing fine, but your mind is not, so you won't be able to perform as best. So you need to be a connection between your body, your mind, not just mentally but spiritually as well. So they all connected. I think those 3 pillars are very important: the physical aspect, the mental aspect, and the spiritual aspect. You all have to be in line, otherwise there's something missing. You won't be able to perform 100%.
Yeah, I love that. How do you keep, and I 100% agree with you, all 3 need to be aligned. How does one maintain that alignment without one of them coming off the rails? Like, what are some strategies that you do that has helped you keep all 3 aligned and balanced?
Yeah, so it's really hard, to be honest, especially these days, with so much input that we have, so much information, so much technology. People don't know how to disconnect. And it's not just disconnect, but connect with yourself. It's not just about turning your phones off, but if you turn your phones off and you don't practice anything that you could reconnect, or to go to the beach, or walk on the sand, or go for a ocean swim, to connect to nature. There are so many ways that people can reconnect, but everyone is different. What suits me might not suit you, and might not suit other people. So you need to find what is actually the best for yourself, in order for you to reconnect, and also to connect to others. So for me, what works is, for me, jiu-jitsu is already a practice of uh, the physical aspect and the mind aspect. Every time I go to training, I'm actually training my body and training my mind. Because after your training session in jiu-jitsu, you feel like really relaxed. You feel like you distressed. So it's completely different. So you can jiu-jitsu evolves everything, but it's still like have that spiritual side that everyone has to find their way.
Yeah. When did you started linking that? At what point in your on your journey did you start making that link?
I think when I was about 18, 20 years old, when I started to understand a bit more spirituality, when I started reading more, my master gave me some books. My mom was a very spiritual, lady too. So she used to believe in things that in Brazil was a little bit odd, she wasn't, we all came from a Christian, base. We came from the church, but we weren't very active in the church. My dad wasn't very active. My mom wasn't very active in the church, but we grew up in Catholic, society in Brazil. And my master was completely the opposite. So he went out to the Zen Buddhism. He was teaching me other things, and I was very interested because it went away and not against, but a completely different way of living than what they used to say. And my mom used to also be very spiritual, and she used to have different, things, different way to see things. And she taught me a lot as well.
Yeah. And spiritualism can be defined in many ways. And I wonder, at what point in your, like, say, was there a time during your experience on the mats where you had this aha moment where you linked your experience at that moment into spirituality, where you were outside of yourself, where you couldn't describe it? It was a feeling and it's something that had to be felt. Can you recall a time, a moment where you felt that or experienced something like that?
Now, as I say, it's when you actually really connected spiritually, it becomes like you're in a state of flow.
Right.
You don't need to think too much. And for me, I never had this aha moment. So I was working a lot. I was doing a lot of meditation with my mom. We used to go to the meditation retreat, meditation centers. And I used to do a lot of meditation in a group meditation. So you can get a lot of other people's energy as well, sometimes bad, sometimes good. But when you're in a group, everyone with the same purpose, we starting to have a big impact with energy, really good energy. And I think when you actually really connected, you starting to feel like you don't need to think. Everything flows, everything goes your way. I don't think there is any special magic moment that happens. For some people probably that could happen, but for me it was more like practice. So as I practice, I got better with it, and less that I had to work hard for it. You are starting to become in your nature. So you're walking and you're meditating, you're breathing in, or you're trying to connect it. You're going in a bus trip and you're connecting. So it becomes part of your life rather than trying to aim to get something or trying to work towards something. So when you practice, it becomes better, right? So in everything you do.
You mentioned state of flow. If you could describe that feeling, what would that sound like? If you could describe what that state of flow means to you.
For me, the state of flow means like you when you're in peace with yourself, when you're in peace with the world, and also like when nothing is forced. Once you put a lot of work and a lot of effort towards something, and the things flow your way because nature is in your favor. Once you're in the state of flow, everything works towards for you. You just put the effort into it. You aim to get what you want, but the universe will conspire, towards you. And that's what I find. My whole life was like that. I never force anything to happen, but I work towards it. And once I feel like I'm connected, it works even faster. But I'm
I
not
love it.
always connected too. I'm not always connected. I need to always reinforce myself. I need to always, like, when I feel like I'm going off rails, I have to um, just come back and try to reconnect. And for me,
Mm.
meditation is my medicine. There's nothing better for me. People like go to church, or people go to monasteries. People like try to connect in different ways, and for me, it was always meditation.
Mm. Yeah, so beautiful. It reminds me of a quote that Bruce Lee once said, be like water, be formless, shapeless, And I wonder if that is a way of just being in that state of flow,
Exactly.
I you and I had a brief role during the training day at Burley, and oh my goodness, you were like the definition of be like water. I was sharing my experience with my buddies. I said, like Professor Guga, he was just like, he was the definition of be like water. He was
Yeah.
just so in the flow, and I'm like, this guy is like an invincible ninja, and that is mastery, in my opinion, right? That's just mastery right there. And I wonder, I mean, what are some of the challenges that you faced during your journey, and how did you overcome them to be able to get to that high level state of flow?
Yes, what you described about Bruce Lee is exactly what state of flow is. I always tell my friends, my students as well, when I'm teaching the class, when people get in side control, they intend to hold with all their strength and holding a position with all the energy, So when you become a rock, you become one with them, and then if they roll, you roll with them. So when you like water, you like a blanket on top. So if they try to roll, they're gonna get stuck. So it's exactly like that. So I always joke, it's like, be like water, don't be like rock, my friend. Yeah. So it's exactly what that is. And I think you become it's hard to get to that stage, but with a lot of practice and a lot of time on the mats, that's what the state of flow. You can get the state of flow. So a lot of hours, a lot of time on the mats, and also studying. Very important to study techniques. Is study jiu-jitsu. I was always a big nerd of jiu-jitsu. I used to, study a lot. I used to learn a lot of techniques, different variations from each position. So if you have more knowledge, you can use it, And if you don't have knowledge, you can't use it.
I love it. I love it. I love the flow state, the be like water, finding that peace from within, and the breath. And so you said you meditate, and I guess with meditation, and based on my own experience, that increases your level of awareness from what's happening inside, what's happening outside, and then tie that in with jiu-jitsu and the practice and the time you put in on the mats. I dare say, as you said earlier, goes hand in hand. So it's that level of awareness of, oh my goodness, I'm noticing I'm shallow breathing. I need to bring some more control to the breath, more control to the situation. Since you've reached this level of mastery, are you finding that you still have to catch yourself, or
Always.
maybe not as often? Always, yeah.
Yeah. So the learning is endless, So we also we go through phases, like everyone else. Sometimes we doing well physically, but not well mentally. Sometimes we actually doing very strong mindly, but be physical, you're injured or something like that, or you have to come back to the mat somehow. Every time you have a break, you come back, pretty out of shape, pretty out of breath. But I think the chase is endless, for chasing for spirituality, for a physical ability, because as we get older, we starting to deteriorate. So it's important for us to stay in shape, to stay healthy, to eat healthy, to do everything that we can to stay able to provide and to train and to do our best. but the chase, I think, especially the spiritual side, is endless. You're going to continue to do until you die.
I'm with you there, that's for sure. During your relentless pursuit of that black belt, was there ever a time where you wanted to throw the towel in, where you felt unmotivated, uninspired? And how did you overcome that? Those moments in times where you may have felt that way?
Yeah. Well, I've always been very light. I used to weigh 60 kilos back in the days. I used to compete under 60. And I used to train on a daily basis with big monsters. We used to train in a judo club in Brazil, a very well-known judo club. And a lot of the judo players there, they went to Olympics. So it was a really high-level school that I started jiu-jitsu. And I used to get smashed all the time. It's like, and I said, this is not for me, But every time I used to go, to competitions, I used to do well because I used to train with the guys so hard that the competition become easier. And sometimes you have moments that you want to give up, you want to stop it, you want to do something else with your life. But jiu-jitsu was something that I connected with myself, as I said before, and I never found any sport that did that for me. I used to play a lot of soccer when I was younger as well. And it was a team sport. And when it's a team sport, it doesn't matter how good you do, how well you play. And if the other 10 people doesn't play well, you lose it, And I used to get frustrated because sometimes I used to play really well and then we end up losing. And when I found jiu-jitsu, it was an individual sport. And then every time I put the effort in, I'll get the results. And every time I didn't put the effort in, and I wouldn't get the results. And it was all relied on me. I said, that's good because now I can, if I put the effort, I might get the result that I want. And that's one of the things that changed my concept as well, like for individual sports rather than team sport. They all have the benefits, right? Team sports are also really good because you build a bond, bond with other players, and you need to listen to the coaches. You need to work in a team environment. They all really good. It's also related to jiu-jitsu because if you have a school, you have to lead a team. You have a team behind you, and you cannot, do well by yourself in jiu-jitsu. You need to have partners to train. But that's what was the difference between team sport and individual sport. That all the effort that I put in, I'll collect it. In the end.
Yeah. You get what you put out, right? It's that whole energy that you spoke of. You put in the energy, you get back that energy.
And if I was gonna draw a graphic about jiu-jitsu, would be you go through a phase like you peak, and then you go to a plateau and starting to decrease, you're starting to get worse in jiu-jitsu, and then you do another peak. But if you feel like the graphic is going always up, you never lose it. So you never go down all the bottom where you started. So you always have that knowledge already. You're always progressing on top of it. You're like laying bricks, all on top of the other. So you always even if you don't put any more bricks, you won't break the wall. You know what I mean? You're always stacking bricks on top of it. And you're always going to get better if you come back and if you start putting effort into it. You're always going to get better because you already have that base. You have that knowledge that you acquired before.
Sounds a bit like life, up and down.
Yeah.
It's not a straight line.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of team sport, you with yourself and Professor Marcelo developed a jiu-jitsu program for some rugby teams with Manly Sea Eagles. You worked with N-Swiss as well. Could you tell us a bit about your experience with that?
Yes, was pretty fun back in Manly when we used to train in Manly. Marcelo was invited to start doing a preseason for the Manly Sea Eagles. They never trained jiu-jitsu before. So we went there. They had no clue what jiu-jitsu was. They always used to grapple a little bit, but nothing specific. So we started to develop some techniques that was applicable for jiu-jitsu. And back then we didn't know the rules as well in rugby. We never played rugby. So we were developing the techniques that were allowed in rugby because a lot of things weren't allowed. So we were learning about the rules and we were learning about the game as we starting to develop these techniques. So we did the preseason in 2007, and in 2008 they won the premiership. So the year after, they won the premiership, and they won against a very dominant team, the Melbourne Storm. They won against Melbourne Storm for 40-0. So it was probably one of the biggest wins that they had, against Melbourne Storm. And since then, and it all came through also like our friend after we worked with the Manly Sea Eagles. We had a student called John Pryor. John Pryor was the strength and conditioning coach for the Wallabies, and he's very well connected in the industry. He has so many contacts in the rugby, and JP and we got together and I worked for JP for a few years, and he put me into work with the Waratahs, the Australian with Wallabies, the Australian Sevens, and I eventually went to France as well to work with a rugby club called Narbonne in South France. I did the preseason there as well for 6 or 7 weeks. So it was a really good connection that we had, and the jiu-jitsu proved that it's very efficient for rugby as well.
So good, so good. And I dare say all the other clubs would have probably asked them, what's the secret? How did you maintain the win? And of course, jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is always the answer.
Yeah, well, Melbourne Storm started before everyone. So Melbourne Storm started 6 years before us. And they won 6 years in a row. Yeah, so a guy called John Danaher as well, like back in Melbourne, he's starting to teach, the Melbourne Storm for many years. And then after we came on board, a lot of the rugby clubs started to hiring, jiu-jitsu coaches because they felt the need. And nowadays, it's pretty much a must. You must have a wrestling or a jiu-jitsu coach in a club.
That is so good, so good. What's been the most valuable piece of advice that you've ever received in the realm of jiu-jitsu?
That's a good question. We meet so many good people and so many wise people in jiu-jitsu that it's hard to pinpoint one. But I would say just jiu-jitsu, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. That's what someone said to me a long time ago, and it's true, because if you try to sprint, you're gonna break it very quickly, and if you don't have the desire to keep going for a long time, you might stop halfway through too.
And that's a really, really good point to make, you know. And because if you're focusing on, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we're training and focusing on getting that black belt only, then we're missing the entire journey. We're missing we're not being present with the experience that we're going through today.
No. The black belt should never be the end result or the goal. So jiu-jitsu, it's way beyond the black belt. So people think that you got a black belt and you're done. Not at all. The black belt is a new white belt, so you're gonna start all over again. So it doesn't stop. People think that you're gonna done. You're black belt now. That's it. But if you stop training, you go nothing's gonna change for you.
That's almost like many years ago, after I had a baby and I'd lost the weight and I was still running, and my dad said, "Why are you still running for? You've lost the weight now. You can stop running." And I'm like, "No, Dad, it doesn't work that way. It's not like that."
Well, what I say to my students is like a samurai. So with samurai with their sword, right? So even when there's no war times, the samurai is always shaping the sword, because they know that the sword is there for him. It's reliable when he needs to use it. So it's not just when you're not going to just shape the sword when it's a wartime. So you need to be ready at any time, and you got to keep, building your strengths. You're going to keep doing what you need to do to be active and to be, ready.
That reminds me of a book I read by one of Bruce Lee's students. And that was one of the things that Bruce Lee would teach is, awareness, having that level of awareness. And in his book, and I'm trying to recall what the name of the book was and the author, but he was always speaking about having that level of awareness in case he needed to use those skills, that he was taught. And there was a time when he went hiking and noticed that he was having some breathing difficulties and he was experiencing an incident. And so because he had that level of awareness, he was able to breathe through the issue, those symptoms that he was going through, which actually saved his life, So it's, and I recently got my daughter started in jiu-jitsu. So she's 16, she'll be 17. And apparently I'm a really strict parent. I don't let her go out anywhere or do anything. And, mother of the year here. And I said, you know what, if you want more freedom, I want you to do at least 6 months of jiu-jitsu, minimum. I said, minimum 6 months. You're going to come train with me. I'll train with you. It'll be fun. And I thought this will be a really nice way for us to connect. And she's like, deal, if it means that I'm going to have some freedom. I'm like, awesome. And I said to my family, who were kind of like a bit standoffish, and I said, look, it's not that I'm encouraging her to go and use her skills outside. I'm not manifesting anything. It's just a good to have. It's just, for me, I feel really empowered after a session, after a sparring. I walk out, sometimes I cry, I feel there's this overwhelming, beautiful, beautiful feeling. And I just want her to walk out with that level of confidence, certainty, and I wonder, is there any advice, I suppose, that you could give to, say, a parent or someone who may be sitting on the line, on the edge, on, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, whether should they not? What are some things perhaps you've noticed in your students' behavior or in the changes that they've created in their life as a result of this amazing sport?
Well, my advice is just do it right now. Don't waste any time. Don't waste any time. Because jiu-jitsu, it's beautiful in many ways. It's a form, one of the most effective forms of self-defense. It's energy exchange, right? That's why how you feel like sometimes feel like crying, because sometimes you go there with a like really heavy energy, you work really hard, or you stress at work, and you exchange energy in the movement there, like in a way that the energy disappears, like the bad energy disappears, and you always collect the good energy. So that's why when you come to a jiu-jitsu class, after you feel relief, you feel like so good. It's hard when you're doing, it's not easy, but after you feel like really that dump of adrenaline, a dump of the dopamine, so you feel like completely relaxing peace. So that's why jiu-jitsu, it's magical, because we are exchanging energy in a grappling match. So we always like dissipating bad energy and bringing good energy, and for young kids are even more important, because they haven't shaped their character yet. They haven't shaped their behavior. So it's really important for them to have a place that teaches them good values, good discipline, respect others, working, bonding with the team, respecting teachers, and they'll become stronger physically and mentally and spiritually, as we said before. So it's a great, not just a sport, it's a way of living that I feel is not even a sport, to be honest.
Yeah, a way of life.
Yeah.
And you might agree with this. There are many layers and layers and layers in jiu-jitsu, and the lessons that we can gain, that is possible to learn on the mats. What's been one of the biggest lessons that you've learned throughout your experience that you could perhaps recall?
Well, one thing that I would like to say is you only learn the lesson that you needed to at that time, at that present time. If you need something specific, jiu-jitsu will give you on that time. If you're actually looking for something, you might not get it. You know what I mean? So you only learn, or you only absorb what you actually can absorb at that present time. I don't know if you get it, what I mean. You always need to be open for as much information, as many lessons you can learn. But sometimes some lessons will pass through you without you even notice, and you can only absorb what you needed. There's so many lessons to learn on the mats. There's so many lessons to learn with your professors and teachers, but you're only gonna get what you need at that present time, if that makes sense.
Powerful. Absolutely. Can you give us an example of one that really struck a chord for you?
Well, there's physical lessons, and then also like mental toughness that you'll be acquiring in jiu-jitsu. So I think the most important lessons that you learn in jiu-jitsu is how you become and how you react to adversity in life. A lot of the times people intend to whinge or talk or complain, or go negative about things that happen to them. But if you train jiu-jitsu enough, you feel like everything will pass, everything will go. You're gonna go through some tough times, and that's one of my favorite quotes. Tough times never last. Tough people do. So everyone is gonna have tough times in life. Everyone's gonna have difficulties in life. Everyone has limitations in life, and it's really important for you to understand those tough times and grow from it. I don't feel like it's hard to pinpoint every single lesson that you learn in jiu-jitsu, or what time that you think that lesson was important, because the most important lessons are on a daily basis. That when you overcome negativity, or when you overcome like fighting with your family, or fighting with your husband, or you come to jiu-jitsu like really depressed, or like feeling unwell, and then you come to training and you feel better instantly next time. But if you don't allow this to build upon you, that's the most important lesson already. So you're already discarding the negativity. You're already moving on, and everything passes except death. You can't pass death, but the rest of it you can overcome. You can go through, and that's what jiu-jitsu teaches you, that mental toughness to keep moving forward.
Yeah, I love that. And building on that is where you get the resilience to be able to then deal with life situations and the uncertainty. I mean, what was the experience like for you in the school during that COVID time? I dare say it may have been a very difficult and challenging time, but what are some ways that you and your students able to get through and bypass those 2.5 years during those unpleasant times? Can you give me an example on how you were able to overcome those tough times? As you said, tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting topic. Because it was very, very hard for us as a business owner, losing like 60% our clientele, and just surviving, like everyone else it was at that time, because we didn't know what was coming. We didn't know if we're gonna die, or if we're gonna survive next day. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I opted not to take the jab, and we didn't know how we're gonna do it, because my wife decided to take it, and she said, well, we can go 50-50 then. So if you die, I stay with the kids to look after them. And if I die, you stay with, with the kids and look after them. So we said, let's go 50-50. And not because I'm conspiracy theorist, nothing like that. What happened to me was a consequence of facts that led me not to take the jab. So first of all, I was booked to get the jab, and I felt sick on the day. I was throwing up. I woke up really sick. I don't know why, and I couldn't take the jab on that day. So I rebooked the jab, and then they had like outbreak in West Sydney, and they sent all the vaccines from Newcastle to Sydney. So we didn't have the jab for many months after that. So we were waiting for the vaccine to come to Australia or to Newcastle so I can take it. And then, like, a lot of things starting to come up, and a lot of things I started to research more and more about it. People talking to me, no, don't take it, don't take it, don't take it, etc. And then I ended up getting COVID. I ended up getting it without having the vaccine. And then I said, okay, so now I'm not going to have it. I already had COVID, so I'm not going to have a vaccine. So when we came back to when we were able to operate the business, I still had about 2 or 3 months that I couldn't even step on my own business because I wasn't vaccinated. So it was like even tougher for me because everyone was training already. The business was I was trying to run the business remotely, and I couldn't even step on my own business. So that's what happened to me. Not that I didn't want to have it or I go against it or nothing like that. So I just decided not to take because I had COVID, and I decided not to have it. But it was really tough that time. And what I did was to stay strong. What I was doing, I was going for a run on the beach. I was doing outdoor activities. I was trying to surf as much as I can to keep my mind clear, to keep my mind sane, and spending time with my family, spending time with the loved ones and people that really believe in me, and that's what made the difference. Despite that, I couldn't work and I couldn't put I couldn't train. I was doing my best to stay sane.
And that there is the definition of the quote that you've just given us. Tough times don't last, but tough people most certainly do. So thank you so much for sharing that.
No worries.
I have some quotes here from Professor Carlos Gracie Sr. that I want to read out, and I would love to hear your take and what it means to you based on your perception. The first one is, be so strong that nothing can disturb the peace of your mind.
Yes, this actually is on the quote. This quote is actually on my new gym in Gracie Barra Edgeworth. So we have that quote on the wall, and it's one of the most powerful quotes that I know. That summarize everything that we talked about. Being so strong on physically, mentally, and spiritually that nothing outside will disturb your mind. And this is a constant battle, and this is a constant work. You need to keep working on it, because the moment you stop doing one of those three things, you're starting to get weaker in one of the links. So you need to keep doing it until you die. But it's a very, very true and very strong quote. I really agree with that.
I love it. I love it. And as you said, it's practice. It's that consistent practice. The second one I have here is, look at things by the enlightened point of view and update your optimism on reality.
Yeah, that's a really good as well. I always say that to my wife and to my kids, and always see the good side of it. Always see the bright side of everything. Sometimes you miss an appointment, or sometimes you miss a plane, right? So this is a very common thing. So sometimes you miss the plane. Oh no, that's so bad. So no, that's not bad. Imagine if the plane falls off, and you were in a plane. Or sometimes like the car breaks down. I supposed to be in Sydney in 2 hours. So well, that maybe cut something bad happening for you on the street. So you always see the bright side of everything. And it is never nothing is that bad except death. You know, that's the only thing that can be happening to you, that there's nothing you can do about it. The rest, you can change your mind and you can see the, bright aspect of everything. And adapting to reality is really important as well, because the world is constantly changing, and what's good today probably wasn't good like 20 years ago. And one of the things that I see that all the time is dieties and fad diets. A diet that was 10 years ago is not like very healthy these days. And it constantly changes. You have to adapt to what the new researchers say, or the new things are coming up. So always see the brighter side, and put reality into it.
Yeah, I love what you said about adaptation, adapting to your environment or adapting to the situation. And that's exactly what we experience on the mat when we're rolling. We might go in with a game plan, then something happens and it's like, oh my, need to adapt, need to change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The other one I have here is believe strongly that the world is in your side as long as you stay loyal to the best of yourself.
Well, that's a true Buddhism there, right there. So the world is conspiring for you. Like even the law of attraction, the secret, the book Secret, or the movie, the documentary. And it's true, there is a universal law that it's conspiring towards what you want. It's just what you need to do is just to be true to yourself, and work towards what you think is right, and things will fall into place. It's a very true quote as well, and if you believe it, you can achieve it.
Mm. And as someone wise once said, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hands. Is that what Rob Proctor said, I think, once?
Yeah,
Or
100%.
Napoleon Hill, one of them?
It's 100%. Yeah, it's true. As long
Yeah.
as you stay true to yourself and don't lie to others, don't do anything that is malicious to others to achieve what you want. Otherwise, that will be just temporary.
Yeah. That's when karma becomes a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. That was wonderful insights. I love that interpretation. Now, coming back to being a black belt and having obtained your black belt for how many years now?
2003. So 21 years now, I think, as a black belt.
Wow, wow. I said to a black belt one day, I said, wow, isn't that amazing? You've reached mastery. That's so amazing. No. He's like, no, this is not this is where it starts. This is where everything starts. I wonder, what is it, since over the last 20 odd years, what does having a black belt mean to you? What meaning has it given to you since? And I dare say that alone would consistently be evolving and changing. But at the present moment, what does it mean to be a black belt to you?
Well, a black belt for me, is really important. It's a really privilege to be a black belt. Not only a black belt, but the way I got the black belt. From who I got the black belt, the lineage that I had in order to get the black belt. And as you get a black belt, it doesn't change you immediately. It will change you along the way. It will. Once you get the black belt, you're starting to serve others. Like you say, the black belt is a service belt. But I feel like as you get to progress through the belt, you have more responsibility towards others and towards yourself. As a black belt, people see you as a role model. So you need to act like one. You need to behave like one. And you need to be responsible like one. You can't just get a black belt and start fighting on the street or start drinking like crazy, or do whatever. It's not appropriate to be a black belt. So you need to wear a black belt, but you need to be a black belt. It's not just wearing a black belt. So as Master Hansel Gracie says, the black belt only covers 3 inches of your butt. So the rest is up to you.
I love that.
Yeah.
So true. What's the best thing about jiu-jitsu versus what's the worst thing about jiu-jitsu?
Well, the best thing I can make a list for you here. Yeah, there's so many good things about jiu-jitsu, but I think the camaraderie, the friends that you make for life, the teachings, the lessons that you learn, the respect that you get for elders, for the the professors and teachers that they came before you, and the future generation, the way you teach the future generations to achieve their goals. And the worst things I'll probably say is the injuries. Injuries in jiu-jitsu are like a part of the game. You need to be able to deal with it. It sucks. It's not easy, but everyone goes through. And I think that's probably one of the worst things that can happen. Like minor injuries are overuse injuries. That is very common to see in jiu-jitsu, but the major injuries are the worst ones.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I'm with you there. Now, earlier on, you mentioned one of the principles in jiu-jitsu is discipline. One of the key principles that you've gained and learned through practicing is the discipline. How has that discipline impacted your life outside of the mats?
If I apply the discipline that I learned in Brazil here, I will end up with 10 students. So that's how tough it was back then. You weren't allowed to speak much in class. You weren't allowed to be disrespectful. You weren't allowed to be off posture. You weren't allowed to talk to other people like nastily. If you fight on the street, you're gonna fight 10 times harder in the gym. So those things that shape people's life, shape people's character. These days, you can't even touch them. You can't even do anything to discipline the kids. Some parents would love that, but if you do that, you might get sued, and then you might, stop working altogether. And
Yeah.
I think that discipline that you get, on the mats, jiu-jitsu is still going to teach them discipline, because you have to line up. They have to be presented when they line up. They have to fix the uniform. They need to be in posture. But a lot of things that the old school teachers used to do, you definitely can't do these days. But it's changed, but it's still like very, very important for younger generations to learn the discipline that you get in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Is there any specific martial arts techniques or strategies or philosophies that you find fascinating or beneficial, whether that might be on the mats or off the mats? Is there one that you can think of?
Yeah, I always like to study the best masters, and also what you're doing in the podcast is very interesting, because you see people from many walks of life, and they had experience in martial arts and on the mats, and how they behave. And most of them, as I saw some of the podcast that you did, they all very respectful. They all trying to provide to the community, give it back to the community what they learn and the teachings that they learn, and that's very, very important. But what was the question again? Sorry.
Any specific martial arts techniques or philosophies or strategies that you find fascinating or beneficial?
Yeah, so I think everything is beneficial as long as you do the goodwill, and you do like in a goodwill, or helping others to be better, members of the community, better people, And I think that's the most important thing. If you got to a degree that it will help other people, why not do it?
Yeah. When I started jiu-jitsu in 2012, and I trained for 7 years, and then I had a couple of years off, and I only got back in December last year. So it's been almost a year since I've been back. And so since that time I've been off, I've been involved in leadership, running groups, trainings, and corporate programs. And I thought, since I'm this, I've owned my own leadership and I'm back on the mats, I was really curious about, black belts' insights and how they got to where they got to, and how their own leadership changed since obtaining black, and all these thoughts were going through my mind. I thought, I'd love to be able to sit down and interview black belts, you know, and I thought I'd really like to pick their brain. And that's the idea of, oh my God, I could turn this into a podcast, you know, and I could share it with others.
Yeah.
And this took me about 6 months to pull the nerve to finally do this, because the story was, no one's got time for you, Chef. These black belts are busy running schools, running programs. They've got no time for you. You know, all these stories. You don't have the equipment. You know, all these stories.
Yeah, it's easier than you think. It's easier than you think.
Everybody's so receptive, and I'm so grateful. And what I really love is when I see the people at the back at the gym, and they'll come to me and say, oh my God, I listened to the podcast with so-and-so, and that was amazing. And I went, oh my gosh, yes, thank you. And that alone is just magic. You just never know where it's going to go, right? You just never know how it's going to change.
And what you're doing is you are also learning as you're going, and also you're providing a service to the community. So it's whoever needs that little advice there, or needs you know, a little bit of encouragement, you know, that's what you're giving them. So
yeah, thank you. Now, fun facts. So I'm going to go. This is rapid fire questions. So rapid fire type of questions, rapid answer. There's no right, there's no wrong. You ready?
Well, let's see.
All right. What's your all-time favorite movie?
Castaway.
Oh, okay. Can you quote a line from it?
Oh, I haven't now. I can't remember. Oh yeah, Wilson.
I love it. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Frank Sinatra.
Can you sing a line?
Start spreading the news. I'm longing today.
Love it. Amazing. Amazing. Do you have a favorite joke or a funny story, or maybe a dad joke that makes you laugh?
I have a little joke that my daughter came in from kindergarten once, and I found funny. It's nothing to do like disrespectful, but it was funny because the way she said, my mom is Chinese, my dad is Hong Kong. Something, when I was little, something went wrong.
Oh, God love him. Now, there's a zombie apocalypse, and there are only 3 things you need to take with you to your current location. It might be a bunker, it might be whatever. What would those 3 items be?
I'll take peace, I'll take love, and I'll take my family.
Love it.
That'll do.
Love it. What's the most unique or quirky item that you've ever collected or owned?
I have a board from Philippe Toledo, the world champion in surfing. So I keep it in, like, as a souvenir.
Beautiful. Yeah. And what's your ultimate comfort food that never fails to lift your spirits?
Some biscuits, like butter biscuits.
Dipped in milk or tea?
Yeah, they're the best.
And finally, if you could meet any historical figure, living or dead, and you could sit down and have a coffee or a chat, or even get to spar with, who would that be and why?
I'll definitely Bob Marley. I'll definitely jam with him and have his, you know, some wisdom.
I love it. What would you ask him? What would you want to know from him?
I would know, like, how he's because he's so political as well, you know. So he was at the time, when he lived, he was ahead of his time, like musically and also spiritually, because he had his beliefs as well, and also he was very political. He was against a lot of things, and on his lyrics and his music, I would just try to pick his brain to see what can I get it. Try to just listen.
So beautiful, so beautiful. Professor Guga, is there any other final words of wisdom that you wish to share with us?
I'd just like to say thank you very much for inviting me to the podcast, and really pleasure to be here. And for everyone listening, or everyone that's thinking to start jiu-jitsu, just do it. You're never gonna regret, and even if you stop it halfway through, it will be something beneficial. So just do it.
I love it. Just do it. Professor Guga, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute honor and privilege to learn from you. And thank you very much for sharing your words of wisdom. And I look forward to rolling with you again. And hopefully by then I'll be like water.
Yeah, we flow together.
Oh, flow. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much again. And thank you all for listening. If you have any questions, if you perhaps want to go and reach out and trial a class with Dr. Guga at his gym in Newcastle and Edgeworth.
Yeah.
Is that right, Doctor? Yes. So feel free to go ahead and reach out. They have an amazing program out there, followed by amazing people who are all very much like-minded. Feel free to reach out, and I will put the link in under the comments. And it's been an absolute pleasure once again, Dr. Guga, and thank you all for listening and for watching. Until next time, stay fit, stay focused with intention and trust. Bye for now.